Welcome back, everyone, to another surprise guest Sunday on 11/11 with what I now call Pod Chats. Those are our official names for our interviews. It's much more exciting and cozy than interview. Today's guest is one that is special to me for several reasons, beginning with the way we met. We are both avid fans of the person who is literally the best guitarist in the world. Mystery guest, before you introduce yourself, would you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. You'll probably be hearing more about that later. But we met during a live stream, and one thing led to another. And then we ended up connecting on Facebook. And I started learning about what she did and was fascinated and knew that we had to get her on the pod chat. And we even shuffled the schedule just to be able to do so today. So I am very thrilled to announce, in fact, I will let you talk about yourself because I will muddle the whole thing up. Mystery guest, will you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes. So, hello, my name is AMEE WAYTON, and I am a speech language pathologist, and I coach neurodivergent adults.
How did you get into this line of work?
I was a speech pathologist in the traditional sense for a lot of years, and I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. And it was kind of a struggle to find resources to get help with the very interesting struggles that come up as a result of ADHD. And eventually I found a coach, an ADHD coach, and it was life changing for me. Through working with her, I kind of realized that as a speech pathologist, I was already coaching. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I was. And I also started to recognize that children have a lot of resources usually, but adults don't. And it can be very hard to get help as an adult if you don't have like a medical diagnosis. And sometimes if you do have a medical diagnosis, it can be difficult to find help for what you need. And I decided that I wanted to do that. I wanted to be someone that could be a good resource and help neurodivergent adults who have all of the interesting struggles.
Was that revelatory for you when you found out your diagnosis? Did that answer a lot of questions like, oh, now I understand why I do this or do that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it answered 30 years worth of questions. It changed the way that I saw myself. And I realized there isn't anything wrong with me. It's just that my brain is different. It's okay to be different. But when your brain is different, then that means you need to do things in a different way. And once I learned those things, that was literally my life was going in a different direction, a good one.
Oh, that's fantastic. What would you say at this point is the most rewarding aspect of your work?
The most rewarding is watching the progress of my clients. I've had clients that have gone from feeling lost, not really knowing what they wanted to do with their careers, not having like a solid direction. I've watched them go from that to finding their way, having clarity about what they wanted to do, finding how to use their gifts to be really good at what they're doing, whether that's being a musician or being a minister or owning a company. I've got several that are entrepreneurs and they're extremely happy and they're doing really good things for their communities. That is absolutely rewarding. And also, I get to create things that are new and different.
Ooh, I love that you brought up their gifts. Can you give us some examples of gifts somebody would have with ADHD? Because I don't know if we usually look at it that way.
There's a lot, actually. So, neurodivergent includes a lot of different kinds of people. Let me answer that. I'm talking about the definition of neurodivergent. Neurodivergent is basically any person with neurology that is different than the majority of people, which is considered typical. That can be people that are very intelligent, like have gifted intelligence. That can be people who are multilingual. That is also people with ADHD, people on the autism spectrum, people who have visual processing disorders or auditory processing disorders. It's kind of a wide range. The interesting thing is all of these types of neurodivergence, it's like they all kind of have a special gift Okay. And yes, there are things that they may struggle with, but there's also things that they do that typical people are not able to do a lot of times. One example is like a lot of people with ADHD have the ability to hyper focus. What that means is that if something is interesting and they're getting like dopamine in their brain from reading this or engaging with something, they could do it for hours on end without stopping. And the reason that this is a gift is because when they're in a hyper focus, that means that they're thinking deeply about it. It's not just surface level thinking. They're actually using like higher level thinking skills and thinking very, very deeply and in depthly about the subject matter that they're in at the moment. Also, a lot of times with the hyper focus, people finish things. If they're able to hyper focus and have the time, they can finish things very quickly. And there's all kinds of advantages to that. Obviously, like gifted intelligence, they see the world in a different way. They problem solve in a different way with creative solutions a lot of times. With people that are multilingual, they usually have a gift of picking up new languages, languages that are new to them quite quickly. And they seem to have a very in depth understanding of how language works, almost like an innate ability to figure out the rules of a language and then be able to speak it fluently quicker than a lot of other people could. It's kind of things like that. And in each kind of neurodivergence, there's always a gift.
Well, I had no idea until during one of our conversations that apparently I'm neurodivergent. I would have never known. Explains a few things.
So when we kind of talked about it and you figured that out, I guess, was it sort of life changing for you? I mean, like in what way, I guess, is what I'm asking.
It was humbling. I get told all the time that I do things more quickly than people, like get work done
Mhm.
faster.
Mhm.
And I've always thought it was because I'm efficient. It never occurred to me
Ah.
that there was something different about me. And after a conversation I had with you, I then spoke to my friend who's an educator with a whole bunch of degrees, Heather, who runs the Family Fridays here on our podcast. And she's a very dear friend who will just tell it to me like it is, like no sugarcoating. And I said, okay, here's the deal. I said, is it really that different the way I work? And she said, yes, it's very different. And so I really gave it credence. And then it was humbling and I was grateful. I thought, well, if this is the case, I need to use like this gift, what you might call it, or skill, to benefit other people. Because what's the point of having a gift or skill if you can't make other people's lives better? So I decided I
Oh, I
needed
love that.
to embrace it instead of just thinking, oh, that's just me. Now I need to actually find opportunities to benefit others with it. So it was humbling. I kind of felt like Spider-Man when he was told, with great power comes great responsibility. I thought, oh, apparently I've got a gift. And so I need to make sure that I'm using it for the greater good. That's what happened.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I find that that is an experience that happens with a lot of people that I work with. Once their perception of it changes, then they're able to embrace it and then use it. The interesting thing is normally it feels really good to use it. I've never come across somebody that's like, yeah, I can do that, but I don't want to. That's not usually how it works. For most everybody that I've talked to, it is like, oh, and then they get so much joy and fulfillment out of like using their gift and using it as a gift.
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
I love that. I love that.
Well, that was thanks to you. What has surprised you the most in your work?
So many things. I've been very surprised at the sheer number of people who are neurodivergent and like how many people there are that are walking around in the world every day. And for so many years, I thought I was one of the only ones. And also the people that come to me wanting help. Some of the people that have come to me, like just from the outside, I'm looking at them and I'm like, you have it all together. You have everything that you need. Your life is together. You know where you're going. Why would you ever need coaching? And then they come to me and they explain it, and it totally makes sense. I guess it's a lesson that I've learned on a deep level is like most of the time, people are never what they appear to be. That's not true all the time, but there's always another life that they're living there. I've had people come to me and they talk about how people around them don't trust them to get things done, or don't trust them to be on time, or don't trust them in a lot of different ways because they do it differently, and it's because they do it in a non-traditional way. There's some people that don't know like what to do with that, but then I meet this person and they are so together and they know what they're doing in their life and they know where they're going. And the reason they've come to me is because everyone else told them they weren't together. Not because they felt that they weren't together. It's because everyone else told them and they thought, well, there must be something wrong. And there really wasn't.
This is what I always hope I get out of these pod chats, is to have my horizons broadened, and I'm definitely having that happen. Are there any misconceptions about what you do that you run into?
Oh, so many. First of all, as a speech language pathologist, I think most of the world doesn't really know what a speech language pathologist actually does, or like the range of things that we do and that we have training in. That's the first thing. Also, most people don't really know what a coach does. A lot of people think of a coach as like a therapist, and it's very, very different than therapy. The easiest way to explain that is a lot of therapists see where you are now and they're looking backwards to see how you got here in order to help you go forward. A coach is more like they start where you are now and move forward, move forward, move forward. Like the focus is always on forward movement. And that's why I think coaches and therapists work so well in conjunction with each other, because it's kind of like you have someone covering the past and you've got someone pushing into the future as well. So that's the biggest misconception that I see. But also, as a speech pathologist, most people don't realize that we are trained and we work with a lot of things in the realm of cognition. People don't realize how much language plays a role in everything that we do. It is such an important part of problem solving, and it's such an important part of moving forward. And most people don't realize how that works.
And it's always evolving too, which I think is interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we, as human beings, develop and mature, even as adults, I'm of the belief that we are always developing. Okay. No matter how old we get, we're always developing. Language also develops too. And language can actually be the difference in how quickly or slowly one develops, and actually which direction you develop in.
You had brought up the thing about hyperfocus. I'm going to call you on the carpet, young lady. I'm going to
Yes.
ask if you do that, and if so, if you did that about the greatest guitarist in the world.
I absolutely did. I will out myself. I did. And it's a good thing that I did, because that's how I found out about the calls where we met. I started taking guitar lessons in the summer, probably 6 or 7 months ago. And I'm one of these people, like, if it's kind of out of sight, it's sort of out of mind a little bit. So, since guitar is not like a part of my day that naturally occurs, I was forgetting to practice. And I was like, no, I want to practice. I want to get better at this. Well, I saw one of his videos and I was like, oh, that's cool. And because I kept thinking about it, I would remember to practice.
That's great.
Right. And so, because I was interested in it, I wanted to find more information. So, I don't know how long I was on the internet that day. We don't have to tell that part. But I found all the videos, the YouTube channel, everything, and was learning a little bit about him and thought it was really interesting. And then I kind of found the live stream that he does. And I was like, well, I mean, I've got to be a part of that, because I may never practice again if I don't. And so, that's where I landed. That was an absolute hyper focus.
And we may as well give him some props here. Go ahead and say the name of this mystery guitarist.
His name is Marcin.
Yay!
Yay! So, watching him, that is the first time I have ever seen percussive guitar. And having some history with music and some history with percussion and things like that, I was fascinated. I've never seen that before.
He just does it better anyway. Through
Yeah.
our love of him and our support of all he does, because he's such a nice person, Through him, I found my favorite TV show of last year, which was One Piece. And I never would have found it if it weren't for him playing on it. So hyper focusing can take you to wonderful places.
Yes, absolutely. And I have learned more guitar techniques than I ever thought I would ever know in my entire life.
Yeah, one of the names of the techniques came from someone in the live stream. They asked Marcin, "What do you call that thing you're doing?" And he's like, "I don't know. It doesn't have a name." So the guy came up with the name. It's now called gallop strumming. And other people on YouTube will say, "I'm doing some gallop strumming." They don't even know that they got it from Marcin from the live stream.
See, that's what I mean. Language has a huge part of all that we do. And so,
Good segue.
yes,
Good way to
okay.
title up.
Working it in there. Working it in there.
Is it difficult to balance the logistics of being an entrepreneur with your goals of helping people? How do you balance those?
It can be difficult if you don't have the right kind of support. And one of the things I learned early on in doing this business is, first of all, to accept my differences in the way that my brain works, and then get the support that I need for those differences. Scheduling can be a really hard thing because I don't do well in a very rigid schedule. So, seeing a new client once every hour, I feel like I'm not giving my clients my best when I do that. I need some time to process things and then also to shift my mindset for the next person. Also, when I get a project, I need the flexibility to give all of my attention to the project. And then I usually can do it faster and better. And so balancing all of these things and still managing to have a business in a world with people who do not do things the way that I do things is definitely an interesting balance.
And what you brought up about just doing one thing and really focusing on it and that it comes out much better, you are in good company because they're finding out more and more that multitasking is detrimental in a number of ways. It saps energy, it pulls focus, and it's just kind of a hot mess in our brains. So the way you're doing it is considered, as far as I understand, much more effective and the quality is much better in the long run. So there.
Agreed. Agreed. Who knew? The hyper focus people have been doing it right all along. We
Exactly.
didn't know.
So, what's been your biggest challenge as a solopreneur? You mentioned getting support, but it's still at the end of the day, it's you. It's not like you've got some huge team and a staff of 30 or whatever. So, what's the biggest challenge of being the business?
The biggest challenge, honestly, it's knowing what to do next and when to do it. I don't have a boss telling me, okay, now you need to do this, now you need to do that. I have to decide those things for myself and I have to make the decision. That can be very stressful, especially with me having multiple interests and trying to figure out which of the two things I'm interested in do I want to do next. They both feel important. I want to do both of them. I'm excited and motivated to do both things. But ultimately, I need to choose one and do one first and then do the other later. So that's really the biggest thing to do. And also just management, like how to manage money, how to manage scheduling. I do these things in a different way than other people, just managing all of that on my own. But I've learned the thing that helps with this challenge is a support system. So I have two really great friends who also have their own businesses, and they are also neurodivergent in their own ways, not necessarily the same way as me. And once a week, we meet and we kind of help each other. We just talk about what's on our minds. We remind each other to pay our taxes and do little upkeep maintenance things like that. And we just really help each other, and we're open and honest. It's a safe space. We can be open and honest about things we feel embarrassed about, things we're not sure about, if we feel like we're doing it wrong, and just kind of getting some insight and having support. And that's been the biggest help for that challenge.
I think we all need to look to support. I think that's such a very healthy thing you and your friends are doing. Are there any shifts that you've noticed in your industry?
Yes. So a lot of people are becoming coaches. Coaching is becoming more mainstream. which is a great thing. It's a really good thing because there are coaches for anything you can imagine. If there is anything you are wanting to do, I bet there's a coach for that. It's just a matter of finding them. So that's very, very good. When I was growing up, I didn't know what a coach was outside of PE and sports.
Right.
I didn't know what a coach was until I was diagnosed with ADHD and having some struggles. There is a magazine for ADHD people, and it kept talking about ADHD coaches. And I'm like, what is that? Like, and that was when I learned about it. And I had no idea that I had already been coaching people for years because that wasn't a thing. And I live in the South and I live in a smaller city. And so then it's even less of a thing in a smaller
Right.
city.
Right.
So I actually had to find a coach from New Orleans, which is the largest city that I'm close to. So I had to go to New Orleans to find one. And there still weren't that many back then. But that's great. I mean, I'm so excited that more people are realizing that coaching is important and that coaching is so valuable and that you can find a coach for any niche thing that you need help with.
Well, I'm thrilled that you realized that that's what you'd been doing, that you were able to validate your activity, realizing, hey, it turns out I've been a coach. I just didn't know that's what it was called. But you've been doing it all along.
Right, exactly. And well, me too. Because that made a great bridge right on into this kind of business and doing the kind of work that I do. I would love to see the speech pathology industry talk more about that and acknowledge that more.
What is something you can share about yourself that might surprise people?
People are always surprised when I mention that years ago I worked for a production company and used to do some sound engineering work.
Whoa.
Um, I was the only woman in that particular company. I think there were 13 men employed there. Why they hired me and kept me, I'm still not sure about, but I mean, yay. I learned so much from that job. We installed sound systems in all kinds of different venues, in churches or event venues or restaurants, all kinds of things. And then also we did shows and ran sound for bands that kind of came close to us. And like I said, we're a smaller city. So it was, it might have been smaller musicians, some large ones, but I did not run sound for them, but I was on the crew. We did a show for Leonard Skinner and some other people like that. And so it was a lot of fun. I loved it. And then I went on and became a speech pathologist later. Surprisingly, they do relate. And I have very good ears. From what I was told, I was a very good engineer because I can hear a lot of frequencies that other people miss a lot of times.
If you're willing to come on another time, maybe we can go more into that. I'd love to hear about how you got into the sound engineering and, as you said, how it relates to the speech pathology. I think that would be fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'd love to.
A new question we ask people, and if you don't want to answer, don't feel pressured, but for me, it's fun. What are your 3 favorite movies and why?
Okay, so I'm going to do 2 movies and a TV series.
Sure.
Okay. One of my favorite movies is The Holiday, the one with Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz.
Yep.
And I love that movie because it's like you can watch these 2 women find their personal power and then actually take action. And their lives improve because they took action. And they start leaning into who they are as individuals. And I love that. I love it. Love the whole process. Another favorite movie, and just to be clear, I have a lot of favorite movies. And this was like a hard question to narrow down. Okay. I am very much a movie buff, love it. And I feel like after this call, I'm probably going to be like, oh, I should have said this. I should have said this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon is another one. That movie got me through graduate school. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but that's actually based on a true story. The lady who wrote the screenplay, I mean, it's a little bit exaggerated at times, but it's based on her experience going to law school.
Wow.
And the fact that it's based on her story and how everything about Elle in that movie was like she had no business being at law school. at
Right.
Harvard. But she's like, okay, I'm not traditional. I'm doing it anyway because this is what I want to do. And even though she followed a guy to law school, but she ended up landing in a place that was so wonderful and fulfilling. And she almost like she was supposed to be there.
Hmm.
And that is very much a huge theme in my life story. I don't look like I'm supposed to be here, but this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm good at it. I don't do things the same way as other people, but that's okay. I'm going to show you a new way to do things.
That's so inspiring. Oh, I love this. Thank you. And what's your TV show?
My favorite TV series is Big Bang Theory. All of the characters in Big Bang Theory, all the guys, when you think about the early seasons, they're all neurodivergent in some way. Now, they don't talk about like ADHD and things like that, but we do know from the show that they are all highly intelligent. And I love that they're a great example of how neurodivergent people see the world differently. I love how they illustrate this, and it's so obvious when they meet Penny.
Oh,
Penny, because Penny is like, what? She doesn't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it. She does not have the same interest as them at all. But what I love about this show is it shows how what I consider to be like neurotypical people and neurodivergent people can really come together and make such beautiful connection and close relationships and a fantastic supportive community. And I think it is an excellent example of that. And I could watch it every day. In fact, I kind of do
yes.
watch it a lot of most days.
What are you looking forward to next?
I am looking forward to new and interesting projects. And some of them I can't talk about yet. Some of them they're kind of secret.
Cool.
Um, I am looking forward to working with new and different people, which I'm always looking forward to that. I would love it if somebody reached out to me, somebody new, and I'm always excited when a new person comes to me and wants to chat. There's sort of a lot of things coming, and so I'm very excited.
That's all the more reason we have to get you on again so we could hear about the secret thing that hopefully will have happened by then.
Yes, hopefully. Hopefully.
And depending on how things go, I might be twisting your arm to see if we could get an online course from you, but we'll talk about that later. For today, we like to give little gifties to our listeners on Sundays. By any chance, do you have anything for them?
If you go to my website, I will send you the 5 most important questions to ask to help yourself move forward.
Is it specifically for neurodivergent or ADHD people, or is there anybody specifically that questionnaire is for?
I created it with neurodivergent people in mind. Honestly, though, I think it could be for anybody. I feel like any person could benefit, but especially neurodivergent people. There is always a way to step forward. It might be small, but that's okay. But there is always a way to step forward.
In our non-interview podcast segments, the other 6 days of the week, we assign our listeners a tiny task each day. Our tagline that I haven't read in ages is something like small actions lead to grand rewards. The idea is if they do little stuff every day, they're going to see a difference in their life. Is there a tiny task you'd like to give them today?
Yes, I am going to challenge everyone to go through your day and think about why you do what you do and answer the question, am I doing this because it's habit or because it actually meets a need or a want? If you do it out of habit or tradition, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You can ask the question, do I need to do it?
Yeah, I'm going to give that a big think when we get off this call and kind of look at what I'm doing throughout my day a little bit differently.
I feel like you might be texting me later.
Maybe, yeah. Is there any advice you would give to someone who kind of wonders if they are neurodivergent and maybe they've been reticent to check it out because they've been fearful what they might find, or they just kind of wonder if there's something different about them? Is there any advice you can give them?
Yes, and that advice is to talk to someone about it. Or if it's a big question, just go to the people who know and find out. I know that there are times people can be very scared to go get tested for something. or go to a therapist and talk about something, or go to a coach and have a session and talk to them about what their concerns are. But the way to find peace is to bring it from the abstract thoughts that are happening in the wondering and put it out in the open and talk about it. Talking about it will help you think it through and get some clarity, and then you can have peace about it. And even if someone confirms something, even if you, let's say that you get tested and you find out you do have ADHD, there's no rules about what you're supposed to do after that. That's a big thing that I always try to talk to my clients about if they come to me and like they've been recently diagnosed. You can be tested for something and find out that a suspicion you had is confirmed. That doesn't mean you have to take medicine. That doesn't mean that you have to do something different. Those things are there to help move forward, to get you the resources that you need to be able to do what you want to do and to be able to have the life that you want.
And the peace of mind that comes from when you get an answer, there's nothing worse than not knowing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm always surprised at how many people wonder about things for years but don't find out. And then when they finally do, they're like, oh, I feel so much better. So anytime somebody doesn't have peace about something, I am the one that's like, let's find out. Let's go find out. That's the way to move forward, is to find out.
Or
Yay.
take your questionnaire. Yes.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you for letting me talk to you today.
Oh, well, I've been looking forward to this. And as I said, I'm very much looking forward to getting you on regularly so we can find out what's going on in this world, what specifically you're doing with your business. But I just think it helps people to have this discussion because I'm guessing a lot more people are neurodivergent than people might suspect.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Amy. And I very much look forward to all that you're doing. And as I said, getting you on again. And with that, I will tell everyone to enjoy tomorrow, which is usually the day that we have interviews, but we wanted to give everyone Easter off for whatever way they celebrate the season. And I will look forward to seeing you on a live stream with guitar.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This
Bye,
has been
sweetheart.
wonderful.
Yay. Okay. Bye, everyone. Chitty, stay some. Tuta.